what you are depends on the range of the observers. So you're looking at me through the camera, so you're effectively 2 or 3 feet away from me, a meter away from me, so you see what I look like at that range, Richard. And if you came up to me with the right instruments, you'd find I was a patch of scale, I was cells, I was molecules, I was atoms. And this is a model that shows us. So at a certain range, you will see that I'm Richard. You're that far away from my center, which is here. This is a model. But if you came up to me, then you would find that closer to I'm a cell, and closer to I'm a molecule, and closer to I'm an atom, you see, and closer to particles. So you're kind of like an onion. And if you went away from me, you see, here, come back out, I'm Richard. You went further away, you'd see London. And you'd go further away and you would see the planet from the moon, right? And you go further away. I mean, it's in principle verifiable. You'd find I was a star, the solar system, and then the galaxy. So we don't take this seriously. Say, if you come up to me, I disappear, you see. And I'm right at center, and I see at center, I'm nothing. You see, and I identify with these layers. I identify with Richard, or my city, or my country, or my planet, or my headache, or something. And this is so smart, this model, because that's the view in from outside towards you.
Okay, Richard, welcome to the show. Now, to get started, when you were 17, you met a man called Douglas Harding. Can you just tell us about who this man was, why his students were always laughing, and the discovery he wanted to share with the world?
Thank you now for inviting me into this podcast. I met Douglas Harding when I was 17, back in 1970, and he was a writer, philosopher. He wrote a well-known book called On Having No Head. That was not the first book he wrote. And I was a teenager. When I look back, I was looking to try and find out who I really was. I'd been brought up as a Christian, and then I put that aside and was exploring other religions and went to the London Buddhist Society summer school. And he was there, and he pointed back and said, Richard, pointed here to me, can you see your own face? And I said, no. And he said, well, that is seeing your true nature. More or less, that's what his approach was just to direct people's attention to the place they're looking out of. And the thing about people laughing, he was known for being lighthearted, really, because it's a very simple thing to be aware. Now you can't see your own head, you can't see your back, you can't see the wall behind you. And this is the first person point of view, and it's not denying the third person, the outside point of view, where of course I've got a head and there's a wall behind me and all of that. But it's distinguishing between what I know, what I've learned, the way I appear to others, what I am in the mirror with a head, and my own point of view, which is this openness. And that is very light. That's not heavy. And when I look at others, from that point of view, I see that I don't have a face. I have your face now. I have the other person's face. Yes, you see, there you are. There you're laughing already, you see. So, because it's so obvious and easy to dismiss, because it's not necessarily a wow. It's just an observation, but it's a true observation, I say. That's for each person to make up their own mind, of course. The true observation, are you looking out on a small thing that's up against the world, or are you open space for the world? Everything is within you. You're face to no face with others. And when I share this, I start with the experience. And I don't tell people what to think about it. I say, this is my experience, this openness. I am convinced it's the same for you, but that's for you to observe. And when I close my eyes, I can't find any boundary. And I know from the outside I've got a boundary, but from the inside I don't, you see. And everything is different from the first person point of view. Everything is different. Face to no face, you're still and the world moves through you. And this is very therapeutic because in a very basic sense, it heals the sense of separation between you and others and you and the world. See? So that's my starting position now.
Something I heard you say I wrote down, which I really liked, is something along the lines of, "You're not a thing in the world; you're the space in which the world is happening." And I really like this. Could you maybe expand
Well, tell
on
me
that a little?
first what you like about it.
I suppose it's just a total reversal of our common sense perception of everyday life. For most of my life, I've had the experience of being a thing in the world, and sort of up against the world, whereas you're totally reversing that and saying you're not that. You are the space in which all of this is unfolding, which to me is, I can kind of get a glimpse on it. I don't think the penny is fully dropped for me in that yet, but I kind of get glimpses of it every now and then. And there is a lot of peace that comes with that understanding, I find.
Well, there you go, you see. And I think that the idea that the penny hasn't fully dropped, I think is totally understandable and normal. You can't see your head, but what it means uh, reveals itself drip by drip over the months and years and decades as one entertains it and brings it to mind, as it were. And the idea that you could understand this or fully understand it, or the idea that you're not in the world is in you, is a way of describing that first person point of view, if you like. And it is huge. It is, as you say, the total opposite to what you've been thinking about yourself and the normal social view of you, which you need to understand deeply, accept in order to function. But then, too, at the same time, be aware of this inside, private, secret view that I think is true for everyone, that you're not in society, society's in you. I have a friend who was in prison, and he said it was so deeply helpful to realize that from his point of view, he wasn't in prison, prison was in him. Now, he couldn't leave prison, right? That's obvious, but it was deeply therapeutic for him to realize that from his point of view, he was free. And we're all free in that way. It's not dependent on outward circumstances, as my friend illustrates. But I think that what we've got here, you see, is this experience, which is nonverbal, which you can describe in many different ways. And so there isn't a kind of dogma about it. There's what it means to you today and what it means to me today. And it is as if you're sitting by a bottomless well or a fountain, and that's your true nature. And each moment bubbles up out of this mysterious source what your experience is. And it's never ending. And you think that you have kind of, you can't go any deeper, what it reveals. And yet it keeps doing it. It's just energizing, deeply inspiring, deeply kind of reassuring, all of that and more. Just from this, you see. It is just such a extraordinary situation that everyone is looking out at this nothing. And currently, most people don't know it and don't understand it or don't recognize it. But I say that as it begins to spread through society, then this is a healing thing between nations, between religions, between families, as we start to recognize this. Douglas Harding, he did tremendous work on this. He wrote many books and applied it to stress and to life and death and to the way the universe is. And the way I sometimes think about him is he was the man who discovered the center. So he'd call this the center, which sits, in a way, religion is looking for the center. You could put it like that. And science is looking, trying to find out what is at the center of things, what things are really made of. And he looked. I mean, after many years of inquiry, he looked and he found the center. And this is a tremendous moment, I would say, in history, is someone in the culture finally put two and two together and found the missing piece of the jigsaw, which is your true nature, in a way that does not need you to believe anything or join a club or a group. It's verifiable. But he understood what he'd found, you see. And this also, the thing that is special about the Headless Way is that one of the special things about it is the experiments. So when you're sharing the Headless Way, you don't just talk about it and say how good it is. You say, well, let's do some experiments. Can you see your head? Do your hands disappear? When you look at me, is it face to no face? When you close your eyes, how big are you? When you walk down the street, do you move or does the street move? So they're very modern experiments. And these mean that you can transmit it, pass it on, just like that. So this is a profound breakthrough in the spiritual life, but in the cultural life of humanity. I would say I think very, very highly of these experiments and what they deliver, the center, which we've kind of been looking for millennia. All the the religions are about. If they're not about this, I don't know what they're about. They're not feeling slightly better. No, they're about awakening to the center, which is timeless. See that, and it is eternally creative, and the same in us all, and it is undivided. And people have found it, but they haven't really. At least today, the way that they transmitted it doesn't work very well, I would say. Who is going to go on lots of 10-day retreats? Who's going to sit in a cave? It's just it's not practical. Who's going to read Sanskrit? Who's going to study and understand? It's just not going to happen, as far as I can see. But you can notice you can't see your head, and you can notice it's face to no face. And you can do that on the fly, you see. You don't have to put time aside for it, even. And so I am hugely optimistic about the way things are going. Underground, this is spreading. Like now I'm talking to you see. And of course you'll think different things about it from me. But you can't deny, I suggest you can't see your own head. You see. And people go, well, so what? I say, that's the best question you can ask. Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think the people that were at the start of all these major religions, like Christianity, like Buddhism, they discovered this, and then they were trying to communicate it in their own way, using their own language and their own cultural symbols at the time, and then their followers sort of have gradually been adding layers and layers on top of a very simple understanding that is at the foundation of peace, I suppose.
I think that's I think that's true. I wouldn't, I can't really argue very far. But there was a great Indian teacher in the 20th century called Ramana Maharshi, and he was clearly aware of it. I mean, the things he said, these people, the way they speak is clearly speaking from this. But the disciples put them on a pedestal and say, oh, you've got it and we don't. And so they, to a degree at least, they didn't succeed in sharing it. And or you had to be around them. Or, I mean, that's no good if they're dead or if they're in another country or whatever, And I think that people, some of these teachers, what they did, it really worked at the time. You get stories back in the 9th century in China of people like Huineng or whenever he was, and these people who revitalized Buddhism then, and they had many people apparently who were aware of their true nature. But that's 1,000 years plus ago, and it every so often, I think what happens every so often is that humanity, which has got this intuition of this in all the different kind of cultures, I suppose, an intuition of this center, whatever you want to call it. See, and every so often there emerges a way that works for the time being and really gets people kind of living it, not just believing in it, but genuinely awakening to this mystery. See, now I would say that, but then these ways sort of get ossified and they lose their power, over the centuries. And every so often, humanity, it happens. It has to kind of go back to the roots and go back to the experience and start again in the language of the culture of the time, not 8th century China or 2,000 years ago Jesus. You can, when you have the experience, you see, you can read these people and see that, oh yeah, no, they had it. And they had it because you got it and you can see. Douglas Harding used to say, that before you see you're headless, before you see who you really, really are, you read the scriptures to see if you've got it. And usually you don't. But after you see who you are, you read the scriptures to see if they've got it. Because you're now the authorities. Now that is sane, isn't it? That is sane, you see. And I say that if there are other ways today that work, I celebrate that. I can only really speak with authority about the Headless Way, and I say that these experiments really deliver the goods. I know it because I meet people every day, and I've got a huge circle of friends I share this with, and I go around making friends. I go around talking to people about our common true nature. And it's very interesting because people's experience is different from mine. Their reactions to it, you see. And that is very enriching. Yeah.
It is really quite radical because when you're interacting with somebody from this point of view, they're in you. That is, they are part of you, So there must be a real sense of the implication of that is that we're all one, and it's very difficult to carry resentment, to have conflict in that situation. I can see why this is such an important idea to get into the culture and why you've spent so much time working on that.
Yes, and listening to you, I can hear your voice and I can hear my voice. And both voices, which are different, obviously, different people, different tone and all of that. But both voices are happening in the one silence, in the one consciousness. And you could say they're coming out of the same consciousness. Now, that, as you are indicating, is, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. And it's so accessible and so much fun and so enriching and creative. And I think it's very, very exciting because we have not been here before, as far as I can see. Maybe back in 8th century China, when Huineng shared it with hundreds of people, as far as I understand, they had the same kind of joy and excitement because this is not kind of a boring old thing. This is the moment emerging out of nowhere. And you're going, what the, my goodness, you see. And what is exciting about this way is the fact it delivers the experience immediately. And you're your own authority. You can't do it wrong. And if your response is different from someone else's, it's different. It's not worse or better. It's this miracle that we all have different responses to this non-verbal reality that we all are, you see. And to be on riding the wave of this expanding or spreading in society, which is a cutting edge, really, is tremendously inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, well, fundamentally, people, when you, if you can develop this understanding, you go from being sort of like a stranger or an alien in the world to feeling at home, feeling like you really belong here, and that's something, an insight I heard Alan Watts speak about, and I heard that Harding and Watts actually had a meeting. I was wondering, is that true? And did Douglas ever speak about that meeting? Did he ever share anything about how the two of them got on?
Yeah. First, they met in a hotel in London. Alan Watts wanted to meet him. Alan Watts had heard about him since the early 1950s. He'd read Douglas's book. And then after this meeting, I think I'm not quite sure when it was, just offhand, late 50s in London. Then then he came and stayed at Douglas. Douglas used to live in Suffolk. And there is a recording. It's on the Waking Up app, and it's on our Headless Way app, of a workshop that Douglas Harding did in Alan Watts's houseboat in Sausalito, California, in 1960 something, one, or I think. So yeah, they knew each other. Yeah, and that thing about feeling at home, you see, because the world is in you and there's no distance, and this melts away gradually. This feeling of alienation, and gives you a feeling that this is home. The whole thing is home, and it's your home, and that commits you to it in a way that nothing else could really. And this is our birthright. We're not kind of aliens in an alien universe. It's in you. It's deeply, deeply your home, and belongs to you, and because it's in you, because of who you really, really are. And this is, you go out into the into outside at night, and that the stars are in you. It's not just local; it's everything. And let this. I mean, I was fortunate to come across this when I was young, because I've had the chance of more than 50 years to live with this, and you'll never get to the bottom of it. But the more time that you can be with it, the more you will realize about it, and it will teach you. And it'll teach you like it teaches no one else. Yeah.
You seem like such a jolly person. You seem very happy. I mean, and I'm just curious. Like, do you still get sad after this understanding? Do you still have sort of bad days? And if so, how does it change how you relate to your emotions in those moments? Like, how does it change things in that regard?
Yeah, I still feel depressed, and uh, it's not as if when I was 17 suddenly I was sorted out. I mean, I've had to live through everything that everyone lives through, and you don't skip anything. I haven't, I haven't skipped any of these things. But what gradually, very slowly in my case, and it's never ending, what gradually happens is you kind of find your feet, and you realize slowly, very slowly, but you realize, it sinks in, you can't force this, that you are home, and that what happens to you is somehow meant. It's a very, because who are you? Where does your voice come from? Where does your experience come from? Where does what happens to you come from? It comes out of this mystery, you see. Now, I don't always, I'm not always aware of that. And I don't always kind of take it seriously. And I go into poor me and all of those things. But gradually, uh, you can't deny the fact that as who you really, really are, you are in very good health. You're very well, you see. Now, as Richard, I'm not, but Richard is part of the scene for me, and my true nature, as your true nature is. And you see, how long am I going to go on not taking seriously who I really, really am, who we all really, really are, and that at this level we are it's just superb. And that gradually, I think, you gradually begin to look through that lens rather than the other one where, poor me, everything's going wrong, the world's going to hell, all of that.
It makes me think. It makes me think. Whenever you hear phrases like "the kingdom of heaven," for example, that might suggest that this is kind of what would happen if everybody had this understanding. And I can only imagine what the world might look like if this was the default view. If everybody had this understanding, it would be a totally different place. It would be paradise, you know?
Yes. I think two things about that. That it would not, I think, be utopia. Our humanity is deeply paradoxical and flawed. And awakening to the center does not radically transform your humanity. But having said that, consciousness changes, society changes, the way we understand the world changes. We used to think the world was flat, you see, and now we have a different perspective. And that is a leap in point of view, a leap in consciousness. And this is a leap in consciousness from the separate view of ourselves, which is valid, to the center where we are, there's no divisions, and where all is in you. And uh, I think that given the experiments, to put it rather boldly, that make this experience accessible, and because of the internet, and because even of AI, because of these developments in communication, this consciousness of who we really are there's a good chance it's going to become normal. And in my world, because I spend a lot of time with people who are aware of this, and in Zoom meetings and in everyday life, in workshops and my friends, I see how quickly it becomes part of the culture. It becomes kind of normalized. It doesn't perfect relationships, but it really makes a difference because, as you indicated before, you realize that everyone is yourself. Now, we're deeply, deeply selfish and all of that. So it's not like it's going to change overnight. But on the other hand, when you can't deny that fact that the other person is yourself, they're in you, you have their face. And when the society begins to realize and acknowledge that this is true, it's not a trick, you can test it, you see. This is the work that Dr. Harding did in The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth. It's a very great book. When this, God, I just tried to buy an email there. I am thrilled by how this is spreading and how easy it is to share it with you. I've never met you before. I have no doubt that you're looking out of the single eye. You see, I mean, of course, but your response is different from mine. Vive la différence.
Okay, so something I've heard you speak about, which I really loved, was your sense of who you are really depends on the range of the observer. Can you expand on this a little bit?
Yes, I've got. Yeah, I've got a model actually. Can I just show you the model? It's just on the side.
Please do. Yeah.
See, this is based on a model that Douglas Harding made, and what you are depends on the range of the observer. So, I mean, it's not a trick. You can test this. So, you're looking at me through the camera. So, you're effectively 2 or 3 feet away from me, a meter away from me. So, you see what I look like at that range, Richard. And if you came up to me with the right instruments, you'd find I was a patch of scale, I was cells, I was molecules, I was atoms. And this is a model that shows us. So at a certain range, you will see that I'm Richard. You're that far away from my center, which is here. This is a model. But if you came up to me, then you would find that closer to I'm a cell, and closer to I'm a molecule, and closer to I'm an atom, you see, and closer to particles. So you're kind of like an onion. And if you went away from me, you see, here, come back out, I'm Richard. You went further away, you'd see London. And you'd go further away and you would see the planet from the moon, right? And you go further away. I mean, it's in principle verifiable. You'd find I was a star, the solar system, and then the galaxy. So we don't take this seriously. Say, if you come up to me, I disappear, you see. And I'm right at center, and I see at center I'm nothing. So that makes sense because I've almost disappeared. And then we ditch that and act as if I'm something here. But no, you come up to me. You see, and I identify with these layers. I identify with Richard, or my city, or my country, or my planet, or my headache, or something. And this is so smart, this model, because that's the view in from outside towards you. Well, you've got a view out from where you are out into your universe, and it has regions as well. So when you're looking at me, when you're looking out, you see other people at this range, right? If you're looking but if you look further away, you'll find other species, and you look even further away, you'll find other planets. You won't see, just as I can't see my face, I see your face. I can't see the Earth's face, I see the other planets, right? And when I look out at night at the stars, see, I can't see this star. I'm space for all the other stars and the galaxy, you see. So it's a wonderful model or vision of that makes sense because I'm at the center here from my point of view, not as Richard, as this emptiness, you see. And as I look out, my universe is ranged around me to the furthest galaxy. See? And you look in and you see, yeah, there are those regions, you see. Wonderful.
The word that comes to mind when I think about this is it's like we're almost like a host, you know, like we're a host for the world, and it's all taking place within our awareness. And I really, I don't know, I really like that.
Well, you see, there was a great Persian poet and mystic called Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. I think something like the 13th century or something. I mean, he's one of the great poets of the world. And I think he started the Whirling Dervishes. And one thing he said, because he was speaking about this, he said that you're like a host, and everything that is happening to you are your guests arriving in your home. Your home being the space, you see, your true nature. And you now are my guest, and the stars at night are my guest in this very capacious home, you see. And the guests come and go, and you don't.
I love that. Now, how does this change your relationship with time or your understanding of time?
Well, very profoundly, I would say, and this is very much influenced by the work Douglas Harding did, is that when I look out, then one of the experiments is you point out at things and you notice their qualities, and then you point in and you see that it's the opposite. So the color there, no color here, the movement, the stillness, the shape, the shapeless, and so on. And the time and no time. And when I'm looking at the clock that is representing time, I see time and movement go together there. The time and change go together. But here, there's no movement, no change. I look from the timeless into time. And this is a very secure place to be. And time is, as it were, flowing through me and through this timeless space. So you have the best of both worlds. And that's part of my answer. Yeah.
Looking into time from the timeless. Very interesting. And what what um what can this understanding reveal about things like what are your thoughts on things like, the purpose of human life, like why we exist? Do you have anything to
Yeah,
offer
I can
here?
give you my response, you see, Niall. And, if we had longer, I'd say, but what, what about you? Because we're, in principle, we're having a conversation about a common experience here. That's what I say. And we've got different views. But I would say that life is full of projects and things that have purpose, more or less. Purpose of this meeting, the purpose you have when you go and make a cup of tea. It's one project after another. And I think that this is wonderful. When you have a project, it draws out, it challenges you. If you've got quite a challenging project, that's going to draw out things from you that wouldn't be drawn out if you didn't have that challenge. Now, however, the experience of everything that is in you, see, all is within you as your true nature. There's nothing beyond it. It's got no kind of not going anywhere. The whole thing within it, we're going somewhere, and we need to respect that. And that's the joy of life and the challenge of life, the difficulty of life. But the whole thing has no background, just as the field of view fades out all the way around, and there's no background. There's no, nothing. It's not inside anything. And so this is the paradox, that the whole thing doesn't have a kind of ulterior purpose. It is just emerging now, without any explanation and without knowing how you come to be. And I think that for me, who I'm quite a driven person, and I love projects, and I love the creativity and all of that, the achievement, this other side, it is something that gradually I understand. You can't understand it really, but the whole thing is just you don't know how you came to be. You don't know how you come to be as who you really, really are. And that is the joy that casts no shadow. That is uh, the the inexplicable fact that I am. That this moment is within that. So on the one hand, I'm aware of we've got a purpose here, the thing, purpose of the question, and all of that. But the whole thing is floating in this completely spontaneous uh, creativity, really, that is just in a way for the joy of it. Yes. Something like that. It's that image I think I mentioned at the beginning. It's one that I've thought about recently. That one's true nature, one image for it is a well. It's a bottomless well. And you can't see down into it, yet you are it. You can see it, and yet it's totally indescribable. Yet you are it, you see. Now, all you can describe is what comes out of it, which is this meeting. And it's just moment by moment bubbling out of this extraordinary source well, you see. And one gradually kind of, for me, kind of appreciates the pure creativity of your own being and yeah, in everyone, and it's supremely positive. I mean, there's no downside to it on that, no downside. And to in your life awaken to that level of reality, that fact that your being is so powerful. Not Richard, not Niall, not where Richard and Niall come from is just inexplicably wonderful, which is where praise and wonder and adoration come in, that is in all the great religions, you see. So it's not new, but it's new every time you become aware. It doesn't grow old. And it's the kind of, that sense of wonder and appreciation is itself bubbling out of the source.
How does this change our understanding of death? And do you fear death yourself?
Yes, I think I do. I think I fear death will kind of cut me off and stop me doing things I want to do before I'm ready, so I don't like that. But it's completely obviously out of my control. I fear death in the sense of what might lead up to it, might be illness, But I think that because, you see, when you're a baby, you're headless, and you don't know about the one, and you don't know about yourself as an individual. And growing up is learning to go out and see yourself from the outside and see yourself in the mirror and identify, individuate, and become a person. And you overlook your true nature. And part of that is, at a very deep level, understanding that you die. And that arises in you. To begin with, I think the very early response to when your grandma dies and your own, you're very young, you think that the one's asleep. You don't really understand it, But gradually it sinks in that what death is, you see. So you get educated very deeply, and potentially to be deeply afraid, for obvious reasons, for yourself and others, of death. And that is hardwired into us, hardwired into me. But now, when you awaken to the fact that your true nature is beyond coming and going, it's not in time. You look into time, comes out of it, and that your true nature never suffers and was not born and won't die. Well, gradually you begin to apply that remedy, that medicine, to this deep conditioning you have, which is why the appreciation of your true nature is valued, because you've lost it, you've been away from it, you've thought you were something else, and now you're discovering you can't die because you weren't born. Now, does that suddenly mean that I'm not afraid of getting ill and not finishing what? No, of course not. But now adds a new kind of peace underneath it, or it's true. It's not a trick. See, and it is astonishing, and so I like the Headless Way, or I like the way it's set up, one's nature, because one doesn't have to make any claims for oneself as a person. All the claims are about your true nature, you see. So I'm not here claiming that I'm finally succeeded in conquering all my addictions and my fears. You see, no, but I am discovering the joy that comes from seeing that where I am, I'm free of all that, even while the fear is coming up. But then, of course, your fear in your terms and Rumi is like you're a visitor in your home, right? Oh, I see. You've come back, have you? Ah, well, you know.
I love it. Yeah, the phrase "human being" comes to mind here, and what this understanding seems to do is seems to get you very acquainted with the being aspect of that phrase and making that central. Whenever you have a deep sense of what that is and you're acquainted with it, then there's things that happen on the human side don't rock you as much because you have that core, you know?
Well, there you go. I like the way you said that. Yeah. And you see, you're speaking from your experience there. And that's what counts. And you test this out, you see. And a human being, it's both. To begin with, you're neither as an infant. Then you become human and you forget the being. When you wake up to who you really are, you don't then go over and just be the being and not the human. You're both. And you find out what difference it makes to be aware of being at the heart and center of your human life, and how it helps you be a better person, and how it helps you be more effective and loving and true in the world, you see. And it unites you with everyone else, because I have no doubt at all that your being is the same as my being. See? Now, that is an astonishing thing to say. I mean, that's not small. That's not, oh yeah, no, yeah, right. No, hang on, stop. This is what people like Jesus died for. They couldn't deny it, and they got these people. You got it was so big. It is so big. It is so big that to realize that there's only one consciousness. See, which is a very inadequate way of saying it, or that the one is many. That we are the many faces of the one, and you and I are undivided, and also with everyone in the world, and all the other nations, and all the other religions. And this is true. And when we, in our own lives, start to become aware of this and live this, we can't contain this. You see, even if you don't speak about it, you transmit it. And that is our hope as a species, is to take this next step forwards, to recognize the center. The center, you see, and it's not a belief. It's verifiable. It makes sense. It's kind of more intelligent. You know? And also the thing is that it's not only is it true, I say, but it works better than not being aware of it. Being aware of it works better in your life than not being aware of it. And that is a very powerful kind of reason, if you like, of why it will take off in the world. Because when things work better, like the wheel or AI or the computer, people go, right, I want that, right? I want to advance myself. So yeah, let me use that, you see. Well, it's this. It really does work better in your life to be aware of your true nature than not. And people start to notice it and say, what happened then? Oh, I was being aware of my true nature, and it enabled me to just kind of be centered when that difficult thing happened. Oh, I want that. Do you see? It works. It works. It works.
It's contagious, you might say.
Yeah.
I'd love to, develop this capacity for seeing the world in this way. Like, I'd love to have like a daily practice that I could do every day next year to really sort of to cultivate this capacity, I suppose. And if you could recommend just one thing that I did every day to really make the penny drop in this, what would that be, would you say?
If it was just one thing, I would say sit quietly for 5 minutes every day or 3 minutes and be aware of your single eye. Be aware of being the host. Be aware of just that without having to have any agenda, just to enjoy your true nature on your own. I would. It's not a matter of having to do any of the experiments because you got it. You can't see your head, and be aware that the fruits of this are like the seasons. So if you're sitting quietly and nothing's happening, that's like winter. It's not. It's not working. It's working, but it takes away as well as gives in order to give better. But the other thing I would say is that wherever possible, hang out with others who are aware of their true nature. And we have lots of free Zoom meetings where people can do that, for example, because as you just said, it's infectious. It's highly infectious. And it's also to be with others who are on this wavelength is very inspiring and enriching when you share. Because like we're doing here, everyone has a different response and you learn. That's how we learn, is through others. It's by being in societies, by being in groups, by give and take, it's feedback, it's testing things out with others and together. And we can only do this together, actually, in terms of the effect on society. So I would, my number one, I suppose also, see, I'm on the third thing already, but is to do things that kind of remind you of it. And that could even be reading about it, or it could be hanging out with others, you see, or it could be sitting quietly. But these things are, if it's important to you, well, you want to grow it. You want to grow it. Of course you do. And you kind of need to devote some time to it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Richard, it's been a real pleasure to host you today. Where, if people want to get involved with your community and maybe do some of the Zoom meetings, where would you send them to do that?
Well, they can contact me through the website headless.org, and I can send information about the Zoom groups. I'm happy to do that. We also have a free app, and that's got a lot of meditations and interviews on. So there's lots to explore there. But my work really is to extend a hand of friendship to people and to try and make it as easy as possible for them to get in touch with others within the kind of circle of friends, very large global circle of friends, very loose-knit. So if anyone wants to, you can easily find my email through the website, and I'd be very happy to point you towards the Zoom meetings. And I think if you go to the website, you can get it's advertised a kind of introductory Zoom meeting by a friend called John. That's right on the front page there. Yeah. Well, it's a real delight to meet you now, and I didn't know you, and I feel you are a kindred spirit, and I am very kind of encouraged by your appreciation of who you and we all really are. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. I've enjoyed every minute, and I wish you the best going forward with everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, you might also enjoy getting our 7 Insights newsletter. This is a once per month email where I share 7 of the most valuable insights I've uncovered in the previous 30 days. It includes book, podcast, and documentary recommendations, as well as questions and quotes specifically curated to help you live a more creative, intentional, and meaningful life. It currently goes out to over 50,000 subscribers each month. And if you're interested in joining them, you can sign up via the link in the description.